My name is John Griffin, and I am recording this video because I am worried. I'm worried about our future, and especially the future of young people struggling to find their place in today's economy. For more than 40 years, computerization and automation have combined to eliminate far more worthwhile jobs than they have created. And now, advances in artificial intelligence threaten to make that situation even worse. I believe the only viable long-term solution is to implement a nationwide universal basic income, or UBI. However, I also believe that progress toward that goal has been delayed for the following simple reason. The most powerful argument in favor of a universal basic income is almost never mentioned. This video will introduce you to that argument. Universal basic income is in the news with increasing frequency these days. We hear how it will be necessary in order to help the increasing number of people who are being left behind when their jobs are lost to automation and artificial intelligence. We also hear about local UBI pilot programs that have brought consistently positive results to various groups of disadvantaged individuals. During the COVID pandemic, for example, the U.S. government enacted the expanded child tax credit. That program, which could be described as the largest ever basic income pilot program, provided billions of dollars to families with children. The result was that over 4 million children were raised above the poverty threshold. However, in spite of such positive results, that program expired after just 1 year and was not renewed. So, why was such a helpful program not renewed? The answer to that question brings us to the main objections people have to a universal basic income and similar programs. The average voter and their elected representatives consider such programs to be just welfare by another name. In their minds, welfare takes money that has been earned by hardworking people and gives it to freeloaders. They feel that such a process violates so many principles of fair play that they simply can't support it, no matter how much good it does. In addition, they feel that those programs also add to the deficit spending that is exploding our national debt. It can be hard to argue against such fundamental objections, unless we can show that those objections are simply not valid. The remainder of this video will do exactly that, and by using a simple argument that is too often overlooked, even by advocates of universal basic income. Consider this chart. It shows the real per capita U.S. gross domestic product, or GDP, for the period from 1900 to 2000. We see that real economic output per person in the United States, as measured in constant 2012 dollars, grew from approximately $6,300 to more than $46,000 over the course of the 20th century. This is more than a seven-fold inflation-adjusted increase. How did we achieve that increase? Are we all working 7 times harder or longer than we did in 1900? Of course not. In fact, if we consider that the 40-hour work week did not become official in the U.S. until 1940, we can argue that we are actually working less hard than our ancestors in 1900. The simple truth is that we achieved that extra output by taking advantage of the accumulated knowledge, technology, and infrastructure that makes our modern economy possible. Consider what today's economy would be like without the items on this list. All of these items came into prominence in the 20th century and contributed immensely to the increase in our productivity. For the same amount of individual effort, we enjoy at least a sevenfold increase in output per person, and that does not even consider the increases due to advances in all of the centuries prior to the year 1900. In his last public lecture in the year 2000, Herbert Simon, an award-winning computer scientist and Nobel laureate in economics, said the following, and I have summarized his actual quote for conciseness. Consider the income that you now receive as a member of American society, and compare it with the income that you would receive if you were an equally hardworking member of a third world nation. For most of us, the difference between the two incomes would be at least 10 to 1. Therefore, if we are very generous with ourselves, I suppose we might claim that we earned as much as 1/5 of the income we receive. The rest is patrimony, associated with being a member of an enormously productive social system which has bestowed upon us this generous allotment of unearned income. I have added the red capital letters for emphasis. In other words, this quote says that in a developed country, our accumulated knowledge and technology and other infrastructure, which I will henceforth refer to as our technological inheritance, counts for far more economic output than our personal efforts are responsible for. Let me say that again for emphasis, because that idea is critical to this video. Over 80% of our yearly output is not due to the efforts of any individuals or companies. But that situation raises the fundamental question in today's economy. In a world in which over 80% of our output is not due to the efforts of any person, who is the rightful owner of that output? Fortunately, the answer to that question is straightforward. That output simply belongs to those who own that highly productive technological heritage. Of course, recently developed knowledge and technology may still be covered by patents that grant ownership to individuals or organizations. However, the vast majority of our technological heritage has long ago passed into the public domain. In other words, we own it. And if we do the math, we find that we could lift every citizen in our country above the poverty threshold by distributing less than 20 of that 80% of publicly owned GDP as a universal basic income. And there we have it. This is called the technological inheritance argument for a universal basic income. It shows that a UBI could be paid for by money that was earned not by the efforts of individuals or corporations, but simply by the efficiencies inherent in our modern, highly automated economy. That output belongs to everyone. Therefore, a UBI is not a handout, it is not charity, and it is certainly not welfare. It is our birthright. It is a dividend payable to every citizen because of society's investment over thousands of years in accumulating the knowledge, technology, and infrastructure that makes our modern economy possible. As we all know, paid work is not the only legitimate way to receive income. You can also receive it by inheritance. A UBI is simply every person's inheritance. Now, for those who may desire a more scholarly presentation of this argument, I have pinned above the comments section of this video these two references by Professor Gar Alperovitz. This video was inspired by those sources. I should also add that this argument for UBI is not at all a recent idea. In fact, it has been around for centuries, as can be seen in this quotation from Thomas Paine's 1795 pamphlet, Agrarian Justice. All accumulation, therefore, of personal property beyond what a man's own hands produce is derived to him by living in society, and he owes on every principle of justice, of gratitude, and of civilization a part of that accumulation back again to society from whence the whole came. In summary, we see that the technological inheritance argument easily overcomes the two primary objections to a UBI mentioned at the top of this video. Number one, it does not take money from individuals who have rightfully earned it. No one has earned this money. It was created simply by the efficiencies inherent in our modern economy, and that value belongs to all of us. And secondly, a UBI funded in this manner uses existing money. It does not require deficit spending and will not, therefore, add to our national debt. But let's not stop quite yet. This argument also provides two additional benefits. Number one, we no longer need to worry about job losses due to AI and automation. As those factors add to the publicly owned efficiencies in our economy, we will simply be able to proportionately increase the amount we use to fund our UBI. This is an important point, so let me repeat it using the following different words. Just because a company can acquire equipment that can replace human workers does not mean the company owns the knowledge and technology that makes that equipment possible in the first place. Society owns those things, so at least part of the value produced by that equipment must be paid back to society in the form of a user fee that can then fund a universal basic income. And the second additional benefit is outrage. Yes, outrage. All citizens will now understand that if they are not receiving their birthright share of GDP through a universal basic income, then someone else is pocketing their share. When enough citizens understand that simple fact, the resulting outrage will galvanize demand for a UBI. That demand must come from the people, because those at the top who are currently taking more than their share are quite happy to continue doing so. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise that the technological inheritance argument results in many frequently asked questions, such as the ones on this list. However, keep this video to a reasonable length. I have created a second video to address such questions. The address of that video is pinned below. This brings us to the end of this video, and I thank you for your attention to this important topic. Please consider leaving a comment, pressing the like button, and sharing this important idea on social media.